Cut my life into pieces. Sorry, I said cut. All right. Hi, everybody. It's me, Emelena. This is Josh, my boyfriend.
Sup?
And today we're going to be talking about something that he has heard me rant about, like, holy shit. I don't know how many times over the last few years, but it's got to be like at least 40 times. So anyway, I've been playing Nier Replicant on hard mode. And first of all, the damage scaling in this game is off the hinges. It's bad. And the enemies have way high HP, way high defense, and they wear armor half the time, right? And on hard mode, you just can't do damage. You're just not doing nearly half as much damage as you do on normal. And what this has forced me to do is become more creative. I've actually been caring more about, like, leveling up my weapons, you know, taking them to the smith and getting them, like, upgraded. That's not something I ever had to worry about on normal mode. I only did it on normal mode to read the stories on them. In hard mode, I'm doing it out of necessity, okay? I've changed my styles multiple times. I've changed what class of weapon I've used multiple times. I've changed my playstyle, and I've used different magics that I never even interacted with on normal. And that's because hard mode forces you to interact with the mechanics of the game. And that leads me into what this video is about. This video is about basically why hard games are a good thing and how they motivate people to do better in real life.
When I was a kid, I really sucked at games, and like I would like one who would, and I would be one of those people who would like throw tantrums when my brother would beat me in two-player games and stuff like that. But my mom bought me MGS VR missions, not the actual MGS. And yeah, and I did have to like figure out how to do those, a few of those levels, because it wasn't like clear cut. Oh, and also when I grew up, we had we didn't have any. The system we had was a TurboGrafx 16. Yeah, all those games were ridiculously hard. Like I'd say, like artificial difficulty.
So you had to get good.
So when it came to now, when I would like thinking of creative solutions to problems, that's actually most recently with Balatro. Well, if you don't have any jokers, or you didn't level up your the multipliers on your hands, you're basically going to hit a plateau on how many points you can get. Yeah. Like you can either like sell some cards you already have for money, or open like a card pack for like tarot cards, and then like pick the card that like doubles the amount of money you have, and then use that to like buy more stuff. But I would say the jokers themselves is where the creativity lies, because you actually have to figure out what order to put your jokers in to get the maximum score.
I played fucking Stranger of Paradise on hard without even realizing it.
Right.
The first like 10 tries against Chaos were on hard, and I almost fucking beat him. Which goes to prove a point, by the way. That boss is hard on normal, Chaos, the first time you fight him in the game. And I fought him on hard 10 times, like 8 to 10 times. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a lot, right? It was about 8 to 10 times. And it wasn't until like the last time that I almost beat him that I realized I was on hard. So I brought the difficulty up to normal, and then I beat him. But here's the thing. If I hadn't have noticed that, I would have beat him on hard. Every single time I died, I learned something new about how to attack and what to do. And again, it forced me to get creative. Another thing about hard video games is they make you think. And anytime you're thinking, you're working your brain muscles out, right? Also, I remember playing Galarians, which is a really old game, and I've told Josh this story before about how that boss, the second boss in the second level, is really hard. That boss, the second boss, I think his name is Birdman, he taught me that you just have to get good. You have to stop complaining, and you have to just get good. And speaking of get good, I Googled arguments for easy modes in games, because of course that was going to come up if I'm going to talk about difficult games and why I think that difficult games need to stay difficult, okay? If you choose to put a difficulty slider in your game, great. But if you choose not to because you want to use difficulty as a feature, that's great too. And in fact, I praise you for it, because I think that you're really teaching people life lessons in some cases with this. And if it reaches just one person, did you not do your job? I think you did, if you reach just one person. And believe me, in the case of like Souls games, you're reaching more than just one person. You're reaching a lot of people who have said these games have changed their lives, okay? But anyway, I came across this Reddit post, which anytime...
I read it too, yeah.
Anytime we gotta go on Reddit, it's like...
Cringe Factory.
Yeah, man, Cringe Factory. You know, you ever heard of the Spaghetti Factory? It's the same thing, except with cringe. This is what I came across on Reddit. And I can't even tell if this is satire or not. I'm hoping it's satire, but I can tell you something. I assure you, the replies are not all satire, and they're from several different people. And I don't know how to put this nicely. These arguments are out of control, okay? I think video games do need easy modes. All video games. Here's why. Good Lord, we're already in dark territory. We're already in a place where I don't want to be because of the demanding nature of this. Video games are art, by the way. And I want to tell you something as a fellow artist. I'm a writer. You ain't gonna fucking tell me how I write my stories. You ain't gonna tell me how I do the setting.
Yep.
You ain't gonna tell me how I make my characters. You ain't gonna tell me how I build my worlds. You ain't gonna tell me shit about how I write my stories. And that's how I feel about video games. You don't have the right to tell a dev how they want to make their fucking games. We're on sentence 1.
Yeah.
So basically they list out the main points that they've heard against easy modes. And here's the thing. Is they're talking about Souls games. They don't have to say it out loud, but we all know they're talking about Souls games because Souls games are like the only games that people are obsessed with being like, they have to have a fucking easy mode in it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 articles open from Kotaku, ranging from the years of 2012 until now, of them trying to push this idea that we need an easy mode in all games, and it is so fucking ridiculous. Let difficult games exist. If you are not good enough to play a difficult game, I am sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry, because I think you can get good. If you don't have the fucking time to, fine. Like me, I'm fucking 37. I don't have the time to get good at a Souls game, okay? And I don't want to, furthermore. They're not my type of game. Alright, so let's get into this. So this person wrote, so first they're starting off with all the arguments that they hear. Number 1, get good scrub. Oh my god. He said, I almost didn't include this, as it's condescending, selfish, and helps no one. Oh my god. The fuck? It basically says that if you're not good at a video game, it's your own fault, and you should put in time and effort to better yourself. Now I'm gonna stop right here, because we're on sentence 3, and I'm already, like, about to kill somebody. Okay? Because, yes, it is your own fault that you're not good at it, especially if you've been playing for a while, because you're not trying. You're not trying different things. You're not putting in the effort to try and get down the strategies you need in order to get good. It is your own fault, and you should put in the time and effort. And if you don't have time for that, which is what the next thing they say, what if you barely have any free time, and video games are one of the few freedoms you have? Then play a different game. Then if you don't have enough time to play a Souls game and get good at it, trust me, I understand, then don't. Find something that's more narrative-based. Find something that lets you play in story mode. Find a game that has a difficulty slider and play that.
Play Stardew Valley.
Oh my god, don't... Play Terraria, dude. Like,
yeah.
At least that shit has fucking gameplay and it looks fun,
Yeah, I mean, honestly.
Alright. But anyway, what if you barely have free time and video games are one of the few flings of freedom you get? What if you are bad at games but still love them? I mean, this is all a you problem, is what I'm seeing here. I'm not reading the rest of this because this shit is pathetic.
Yeah, this is just this guy just saying, I don't want to bother to learn a skill.
Changing a piece of music completely transforms it. No longer can it be considered the same musical piece because the arrangement of the music makes it music. What does this even mean? If someone wants to play a piano but can't quite get the hang of it, unfortunately, the only thing they can do is play easy songs and get the hang of it. There's nothing we can do to help them. Deaf people can't hear music. It's sad, but there's nothing we can do to help them. But with video games, we can help those left gifted to have an equal experience by including adjustable difficulty. What kind of argument is this? And also, we can help deaf people. It's called a fucking ear implants. Like, that, you know, we have those. And we can give them hearing aids. This is what I don't understand. Why the fuck are you comparing your little fucking hack and slash hobby to people who are deaf? Do you understand how fucking stupid you sound when you do that?
Yeah.
Your inability to learn how to fucking do a quarter circle is not the same as somebody being deaf, you fucking ninny. The difficulty of a game is a fundamental part of its charm and identity. This is just an argument in favor of games too lazy to include easy modes. Motherfucker! They're not too lazy. They just don't fucking want to. Get it through your fucking skull. Holy shit, dude. I can't with these people. This is all about Souls games. Not for me, but the argument against... There are so many arguments of people saying that all games need an easy mode that I just really have to wonder why the fuck they think that they get to fucking decide how art should be made. And also, it's not just adding a slider, motherfucker. You gotta retool your whole fucking game to make it a good easy mode. And then it'll just be lazy otherwise, which people brought up on that thread we were reading, by the way. People actually brought this up. Alright, I'm not the first person to say this, and I definitely won't be the last. If you feel that games need to cater directly to you, you are entitled. You are a whiny little bitch, and you need to crawl back into your mother's vagina. The world does not cater to you. Life is not fucking fair. You know what I saw an argument say? They said Hollow Knight's one of the greatest games ever made, and if I didn't get good enough, I wouldn't have been able to experience it. And Hollow Knight fans think that's fine. Yeah, it is fine. Try harder. Put in fucking effort. You know what? These people who beg for easy buttons in every game, you know what they strike me as? The kind of people who never had to struggle ever in their life and never had to overcome anything, right? Like, they never, like, they just had everything fucking handed to them on a silver platter because they never had to struggle. They never went without, and they never knew the feeling that you get when you accomplish something in life. These people don't want to accomplish things. They want to fucking sit down and have everything handed to them. And it shows when they interact with art, because video games are art. And they think that all art should just be for everyone. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, when something's for everyone, it's for no one.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
Like, Dark Souls games are made specifically for Dark Souls fans. That's who they make games for. You know who doesn't make games for their fans? Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy doesn't make games for Final Fantasy fans. Final Fantasy makes games for anybody but a fucking Final Fantasy fan. And you know what? That's okay. Because those games aren't for me anymore. They were for me, and now they're not anymore, because I grew out of it.
I found a Hotline Miami 2 on Steam for like $3, so I decided to get it. Each time I play a new level, I like die at least 5 times until like I get like somewhere with it.
Yeah, the game's fucking hard.
Well, yeah, it basically, one fuck up, you're dead. You can maybe survive some like handgun bullet shots, but most of the time, like even a hit with a baseball bat, you're just instantly dead. So there'll be a few times I try a level, and I'll beat almost, because you gotta like beat all the enemies before you can get to the next area. I'll beat almost all the enemies, and then I'll like die to the last one, and then on my second try, I'll die to the first enemy I run into.
Yeah.
So even if you find a different strategy, it may not even work the next the next retry, because what weapons the enemies have, it actually gets randomized each retry you do.
I think it was Resident Evil 2 or 3 where you played.
2.
Was it 2 where you played over and over and over? And to the point where you were trying to beat the game with a fucking knife, I think, by only using your knife, and you were trying to get all the unlocks. But I remember you went from playing on normal to the hardest mode.
Yeah.
Like, right? And I think you did the same thing with this Resident Evil 8, if I remember correctly.
There's a specific challenge in 8 where you have to beat it with just melee weapons.
Okay, yeah, so my point is that you're into doing the challenges in these games.
Yeah.
Because they are difficult, by the way. Like, these are challenges that I don't give a fuck to ever do because I don't care. Josh does them because they're difficult. He does them because they're different from the normal gameplay, and they're goal-oriented. Here's the goal, get there.
And you get this for it.
Right, and you get an unlock for it, right?
Yeah.
See, I don't care about those unlocks, right? But he did. And so he went through all this trouble to do it. And then I remember asking him, how did that make you feel? And he said, I honestly think I'm chasing that feeling in other games now.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about right there. Josh gave me the least amount of answers when I asked these questions to people, but that right there, I think I'm chasing that feeling in other games, is exactly what I mean when I say that difficult games are a thing of beauty. They offer you something that you often can't find in other places, right? Like, life beats you down. And you can accomplish many things, but there are some things that you will inevitably fail at no matter what, right? And in video games, that's not true. If you keep trying and you keep putting in the effort, you will accomplish something. You will do a good fucking job. And you will feel that level of joy like it was something you accomplished in reality. And I understand not wanting to take the time to get good. I don't fucking like Souls games because they're boring to me. Like, the gameplay is actually boring to me. I prefer something more like DMC, which, by the way, I've played every mainline DMC game except for 4. And I can tell you right now that DMC is a great example of why difficulty is so good. Because DMC has an easy mode, a normal mode, hard mode, an extremely fucking hard mode. When you play on normal, it's fun. When you play on hard and Dante Must Die, that shit is rewarding. There's a difference between, haha, yeah, I did it, this is fun, and yes, I finally fucking did it, and I feel fucking good, and I feel like I fucking accomplished something. And now I have a good feeling and feel like I can accomplish something in real life. There's a big difference between those feelings. And I can tell you I've played on all the modes of all the different games, so I know what the difference is. And again, this is why difficult games are a thing of beauty. When you play something on hard and you actually are able to pull some shit off that was, eluding you before that you couldn't do, that shit feels amazing. And that feeling of accomplishment is fucking worth every hour that you spent trying to get good at this shit. But I think what it all comes down to, what I'm completely convinced what it all comes down to, is that people want to feel included. This pushback towards FromSoft and Dark Souls games in general, or Souls games in general, to have an easy button, is because people want to feel like they're included in the trend. Elden Ring blew up and everybody had something to say about it. Oh, it needs to have an easy mode, blah, 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 right? And they've been banging on about this since Souls originally came out, right?
Yeah,
like this is
Demon Souls.
Like I said, I have articles from Kotaku on my computer. Some of them are going back to like fucking the early 2010s, right? Even Demon Souls, they were bitching about it with Demon Souls, right?
Yeah, when that started getting popular.
Exactly. Anytime something gets popular, they want to demand that they be included. And I figured something out. These are people who have always gotten what they wanted. These are people who probably haven't had to really struggle too hard and cannot imagine what it's like to not be included in things. They fucking hate not being included in things. And then they want to pull this like ableist argument, any kind of something like that, so that they can put it on par with actual fucking ableism and actual like they want to compare it to racism and real ableism, when I'm like, it's just a fucking easy button. It's a fucking video game. Yeah. If you're not good enough at it, you're not fucking good enough at it.
It's an insult to people with actual disabilities.
Yeah, it is. It is. As someone sitting here with a disability, I can tell you right now, go fuck yourself, right? And in fact, I have a story to tell about that specifically has to do with my disability in a video game. There's this game called Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade, and it's probably a great game, but I wouldn't know because I haven't been able to finish it. And the reason why I can't finish it, and I know it's a great game actually, because from just the half that I played of it, it was amazing, but I can't finish it because it's about a woman who suffers from psychosis. Sound familiar? I am a woman who suffers from psychosis. It was basically playing as myself when I started playing this game. And within minutes, I was triggered by this game. Within 30 seconds, I was triggered by this fucking game. Okay? And the game warns for people with psychosis not to play it. And I understand that. But do you think I listened? No. Because I don't listen to anything. And I was never able to finish the game because I realized it's not for me. The game is for people who don't have psychosis. So maybe they can fucking garner a little bit of fucking sympathy and empathy for people like me. And that's okay. I can get behind that. Here's the thing about Souls games and other really difficult games that don't offer you a difficulty slider or a fucking easy button because you want everything to be handed to you in life. Okay? Those games are not for you. Okay? They're for people who want to struggle. They're for people who want to go through hours and hours of dying over and over again. People who want to have to think and strategize every second of every minute of the entire fight. That is for them, so that they can have that little moment of accomplishment and joy that they get when they're done, when they've skilled up, leveled up, and become the Elden Lord or whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Right? That's who those games are for. And I need you guys to understand that. I need you to understand that when art is for everyone, it's for no one. Souls games are for a specific subset of the population. And you can become a member of that subset quite easily by putting in the time and getting good, scrub. Or you can fucking not. I'm not. Josh sort of is. And I have a pretty good friend who is definitely in. Once you start to understand that everything in the world can't be handed to you, and that everything in the world isn't for you, the world becomes a lot easier to navigate, I'm telling you. When you start fucking realizing, like, okay, maybe this just isn't for me, I'm not the target audience. So before I started making this video, I actually asked a couple of people some questions about playing difficult games, specifically Souls games, because, well, that's what this video is about. You know what I mean? It's not really about Souls games, but of course it circulates around that topic because that's where all the controversy is. Jeez, I wonder why they're so obsessed with this one series. Mm-hmm. It couldn't possibly be that it suddenly got popular and that you want to feel fucking included in something, could it? Right. It couldn't possibly be just you jumping on a trend, but not actually, like, wanting to enjoy it. I don't know. It just seems like you want to be like, I beat Dark Souls. But let me tell you something, motherfucker. Saying you beat Dark Souls means something. It doesn't just mean you beat a game, right?
Yeah,
like,
right,
it means
exactly,
you took the
yeah.
fucking time to get good. That's why there aren't fucking difficulty sliders in these games. I asked a friend of mine and I asked somebody in my Discord, and these are the answers I got. Would you say Souls games inspire you to get creative in game? Would you ever drop the difficulty if the game offered you that option? Do you feel like the accomplished feeling you got after was worth the struggle? He says, creative in game to a degree. You can only do what the game allows you to do, so it's more about experimenting with different builds and weapons and finding out what works best for your play style. Exploits are a way to be creative that I don't really vouch for. I would not drop the difficulty as that's one of the main points of the game. Yeah, really. Like the main points of the game, to get good. If you don't get good, you don't finish it. Plain and simple. Souls games are gameplay heavy games, not cinematic or story heavy ones like The Last of Us or some of the Final Fantasy titles. If you just cruise through it, your experience will be empty. I've heard this from other Souls players, that you can't just cruise through it. You have to spend hours doing stuff because otherwise it just won't be an interesting game to you. And yes, getting your ass kicked by a boss for hours and learning how to overcome it is a very rewarding experience, and it also builds character. Life will kick you in the teeth over and over again until you learn how to play with the cards you are dealt. I know that life was like that for me, and that's probably why trying over and over again to beat a game was never a big deal for me. This goes back to what I said earlier, when I said that, like, I swear to God, these people have never struggled in their life. They must have had everything handed to them because they're just like, why doesn't all games want to hand me what I want? Why won't they just give it to me for free like mommy? Like, that's what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Right? Because they want to put it on par with actual ableism. No, it's not ableism. And like, if you have like some sort of disorder, like a joint disorder or something, or your reaction time is slow due to something, okay, which I'm one of those people, my reaction time is slow. But I'm not sorry to tell you this, but like, the game's not for you, or you can work through your disabilities to get good. Like, the guy who beat Elden Ring with fucking tubes, okay? Like, I'm just want to put that out there, that if you try, you will succeed. Because a guy who was completely paralyzed beat Elden Ring by blowing into tubes.
Yep. I'm pretty sure delayed reaction time isn't a disability.
Well, yeah, I mean, like...
Honesty,
you could have a disability that causes it.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
That is true.
And like, I get it. I get trying to make controls more accessible and things like that. But like, some games aren't going to do that. And that's your Souls games. They're just not going to do that. And it's not for you. And like I said earlier when I talked about Senua's Sacrifice, I think we need to just get comfortable knowing that not everything is for us. I don't know why people are so uncomfortable with that shit. It's like some pieces of art are not for you. Like, I know that life was like that for me, and that's probably why trying over and over again to beat a game was never a big deal for me. You only fail if you give up. This is the most important thing that I think he said.
Yeah.
You only fail if you give up, and that's true. Like I said earlier, the only way you will fail in a game is if you give up, because the games are designed for you to win. And you will overcome it eventually. You just have to keep trying. And I talked to someone else, and I asked how the struggles made you feel, how you felt after, and would you repeat the experiences just for the feeling you got afterwards? Again, I'm talking specifically about Elden Ring with this person because they're big on Elden Ring, but they've played all Souls games as well. Like any struggle, it's obviously frustrating. You start the game, and first thing you usually do is find a playstyle you're comfortable with. Overcoming it will require you to A, perfect your current playstyle, or B, find a more appropriate one. It's almost like finding a playstyle that works for you and changing up your playstyles is part of the fucking game.
Yep.
Any playstyle is valid, and with enough insistence, any playstyle will get the problem solved and end the struggle. I had lots of highs and lows with the game, Elden Ring, but there was something very special about overcoming challenges that no other game really made me feel as intensely as Elden Ring did. The challenges when you first come across them often seem so much bigger and stronger than you. Overcoming them was so satisfying because I surpassed a challenge that was, in every aspect, better than me. There is never a point in Elden Ring, and most Souls games for that matter, where you are not at a disadvantage, and that's why its success is so rewarding. I raged hard, but I believe I celebrated harder. Again, the last thing that he wrote is the most important thing here.
Yeah.
I raged hard, but I celebrated harder.
Right.
Like, this is the feeling that people want out of these games. Next, I asked him, would you say the difficulty of Souls games forces you to be creative? To which he said, absolutely. Every enemy and boss is very distinct from each other, and you end up having to adapt to dozens of movesets from dozen of different enemies. They know how to punish your mistakes in different ways, and because they're so aggressive in Elden Ring, the way you beat them is by punishing their mistakes. Experimentation is also a very big factor in the game, with so many different weapons, skills, combos, spells, etc. The best way to overcome a challenge is to find the right way to tackle it. You can brute force your way in, sure, and in due time it'll get the job done, but you truly shine when you go out of your comfort zone and try out new things. And there it is again.
Yep.
Try out new things.
Yep.
That's the kind of player that the game wants. I think the easier the game, the less encouraged you are to be creative. I think creativity sprouts from struggle and a strong desire to overcome it. Yup. That is true in, like, more than one way.
Yeah.
That's not just true for, like, games. If a game is too easy to the point where there is no struggle, then there'll be very little creativity. You get creative when you start experimenting with new things, and you often start doing that when you're faced with a wall of sorts. So basically, Souls games and other difficult games expect you to get creative. They expect you to change up your playstyle. In fact, that's how they want you to play. That is the way that they're designed for you to play. And if that is not for you, then you need to play a different game. Okay? DMC, on the other hand, is... you can play however you want, and you can play on normal mode and you'll get the story and you'll have a good time. It won't be as rewarding as on hard and really hard, but it's still a good time. If you're just looking to play an action game and feel like a god or whatever, play DMC on normal. It doesn't take long to adapt on normal mode. Trust me, it's fucking easy. So before I end this video off, there's a couple of things that I want to mention. For one, there's this game called Cruelty Squad. You may have heard of it. Just this little really ugly, disgustingly ugly, and extremely difficult game. It's a boomer shooter. And I really like it, and I'm really bad at it, right? But I beat it.
Yeah.
Hey, I beat it, okay? And the thing is like the regular mode of this game is hard. And it has like a harder mode, but you have to like unlock it somehow. But the regular mode of this game is hard, partially because the controls are janky, but also because it's a shooter and you gotta get good. And what I like about this game is that you can fail over and over and over again until the point where you're like, I wonder if there's a different way to do this. And that's what happened when I was playing it. I kept finding different ways to do it. And Cruelty Squad offers you a bunch of different routes. You can go brute force, you can go stealth, you can go somewhere in between that. You can do a lot of different things. There's also a number of ways that you can attack your problem in Cruelty Squad because of the different upgrades that are offered to you, which have a lot of different perks that can... I mean, your character can damn near fly with some of these perks, okay?
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to tackle your problem in Cruelty Squad that despite it being difficult, you can make it easier. You can basically make an easy mode in Cruelty Squad with almost every level, as far as I know. A lot of different Cruelty Squad fans have told me there are different things you can do in every level that make it just a really easy time. And that's how Souls games are, believe it or not. Like, one thing that Josh told me about Dark Souls is that he's gotten much further in Dark Souls than me. In fact, I think he's played all of them.
Almost.
Almost all of them. And the thing about Dark Souls is that there's a specific item or weapon or something that you need to do certain bosses, right?
Yeah.
And the game wants you to go through the trouble to find that. If you don't, you're gonna have a bad time. Hell, if you do find that item, you're still gonna have a bad time. But it's a much better time than it is without it. And I have to wonder, people who want an easy mode, do they just not want to do that? I understand that grinds are boring. Trust me, I'm a JRPG lover, and dungeon crawling is fucking boring to me. But it's necessary, and it's kind of fun, and it's gameplay.
Right.
Like, it's giving you something to do. Which brings me to my next point. Don't you motherfuckers want your money's worth? You spend how much money on this fucking game, right? And you want to just cruise through it in 30 hours and call it a fucking day? No. These games are meant to be played over and over again. Like, DMC 5 basically paid for itself with all the hours that I got out of playing it over and over again and doing Bloody Palace. Same thing with Cruelty Squad, let's be real.
Yeah.
Cruelty Squad was relatively cheap, and I got enough hours out. I haven't played it in a while, and I still think that I got my money's worth out of it because it was fun to come up with different ways to get things done in Cruelty Squad. And that's how I feel about Dark Souls. Don't you want your money's worth? Don't you want to experiment with different playstyles and go around and play the levels over and over again, fight the bosses over and over again so that you get your money's worth? Like, it's kind of mind-boggling when you say.
Well, what boggles my mind the most is the whole poor reaction time excuse.
Oh my god, you're still on that?
No, I am calling it an excuse because, like, if you have bad reaction time, you just have to anticipate something a few moments beforehand. Especially since in the Souls games, a lot of the enemies telegraph their attacks.
Oh no, this is what yeah. And the one thing that I liked about Elden Ring, because Elden Ring kicked my ass, bro. The one thing I liked about it was how easy it was to tell when the attacks were coming.
Yeah.
And you like Souls games are pretty notorious for that. Like you're just like, oh, that's an attack. Let me just roll out the way. Yeah, right? Yeah. Okay, so like my reaction time's kind of slow, so then I just hang back and I watch more closely what's going on. Like, you can accommodate for that. And don't you fucking tell me you can't, because fighting games are fast-paced, man. You see, I'm gonna be playing Melty Blood footage as we speak, okay? So that you can see what I'm talking about, okay? You don't fucking tell me that you can't apply that to a Souls game, because I fucking know you can. I've done it in a Souls games. And finally, there's hardcore gamers, and then there's just gamers, right? And like, I need these regular gamers to leave hardcore gamers alone. Let them enjoy the games they want to enjoy without your constant fucking crying and whining.
Yep.
Bro, they don't want to hear it. Get good, bitch. Like, damn. Well, that's Elena and Josh signing off.